is Jean. You may not see Jean, but Jean has a vital role on board, as Jean is our forward planner. So what Sean's job on board is he actually plans and programs and puts all the activities and the events into the daily patter that you get printed every day, the medallion class out, the boards. So he kind of lives in the matrix back there, but he never gets a chance to come out. So every now and again we let him out once a cruise.
So I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, born and bred. Always been in Cape Town. First time out at sea, first time on a ship, first time literally out of my own country.
Today. And Kelly?
I come all the way from the United States of America.
That's very rare.
I will have worked with Princess for 5 years next month.
And myself, I have worked in entertainment for about 15 years and 10 of that at sea. So I think between us we've got brand new, somewhere in the middle, and myself who's an old salty sea dog. Various tests, I even did the cough test for some doctors. It's an interesting one. You know what that is, fellas? So, yeah, a couple of different things. Qualifications and credentials. Now, do you need a degree to do what you do? I mean, various positions require different qualifications, right?
Well, I have a degree. I don't know if it's...
What's your degree in?
Theater.
Oh, perfect.
No, I can pretend to do anything. So.
I like that.
I have business management degree under my belt. Yeah, and that's what I need.
So I applied for this job for about 10 years before I got an interview.
Wow.
So I went on a cruise with my mom and I watched...
Our internet was slow.
I was watching people do trivia and I was like, I think I could do that. And so I sent in my resume and got a different job somewhere else and like continued applying, and then finally I just said, you know what, I'm going to do this, and so got in. But I think they're looking for every position that's on board. You have to have done that on land.
Or yeah, something similar or equivalent. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of ships over the years have developed their own onboard sort of little language and lingo. You got any examples of any good shipboard lingo?
Oh, the first time there was a paper on my door, like pinned on my door, that said Kambusa, and I could not figure out what that was for. And
it's an interesting one. So Kambusa is something that we have on board. It's an old nautical term. I think
it's Italian. I found out recently,
and I think it means like storage room, basically.
But I looked it up on the internet. I couldn't figure out what this word meant.
But it's a nautical term we use, and it still sticks around. What Kambusa is as crew members, as well as going to the crew bar, we can order drinks like water and sodas, sometimes alcohol, and you can order things in bulk, so you don't have to continually go to the crew bar every time you want a bottle of water. And you do that via Kambusa, so you fill out a little chit, and then you go down and you pick it up and you bring it. So that's what Kambusa is. It kind of means store. But the other thing with shipboard lingo,
CBTs. That was the first lingo I learned when I got here on the ship. Please make sure you complete your CBTs. I had no idea what they meant by CBTs at all, but it was actually the online-based learning program that we actually have to do. So we actually have a lot of courses that we have to complete when we come on board.
A good-sized lounge. This bar is like any other bar. It's kind of a bar/nightclub, if you like. We have various events and things in there. Sean, as well as being forward planner, is a very good DJ. He's DJs down there for the cruise some nights. And the great thing about Crew Bar is when you work with so many cultures and countries, you get to celebrate everything. And we do celebrate everything. Like Indian Independence Day, Filipino Independence Day, Donut Day, whatever it is, we will find a reason to sort of have a party. And we have different theme nights, don't we, Sean?
Yeah, we have Afrobeat night tomorrow night, I think.
Tonight, I think.
Oh, Bangani's
tonight? Yeah, tonight. So we have an Afrobeat night where we celebrate all the music from the whole African continent tonight.
We had Latin night the other night.
Latin night, we had to DJ. That was pressure. I mean, think about it. It's an African DJ, Latin. It was so weird, but it was so awesome.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. You get to experience all these different and wonderful cultures. Like when I went to Latin Party, I always thought I could dance, and then I went there and then realised I'm terrible. Swimming pool and hot tubs. Yeah, we have a cruise swimming pool and hot tubs. Where's that?
That's on deck 8 forward, right in front. So if you decide to go onto deck 15 viewing as you go through the canal, you'll see that pool right down there. That's our private little
Yeah,
pool.
you can't go there.
You can't go there. But I'll go there with my guitar and I play a bit and I just relax when I get some time.
You may have seen it. There's a pool right at the very front of the ship. You may have wondered that one's for the crew. We call the area because it's obviously all metal clad around there. We call it fondly known as the Metal Beach, is what we call it. And it's great, especially for the bridge officers up there, because it's normally where all the dancers go and sunbathe, so they've got something to look at when they're in port as well. But I think cruise ships came together and they really worked together, and I think the media really portrayed ships in a really bad light, and I don't think they fully gave the whole story of what actually happened and what went on behind the scenes. It was very quick bad news is always what sells, and I think it's easy to sort of say cruise ships are these cesspits and all these kind of things, and petri dishes and all this weird and wonderful things. But in essence, when we were on board, probably one of the safest places we could be, because we were in a little bubble. We had no connection to the outside world. We had plenty of testing, so we all tested. We all know every crew member was on board. We had no connection with the outside world. Any food and supplies we took on board was all sanitized. We had unlimited toilet rolls. So, like, when I got off, I was rich in my country. I took like 52 toilet rolls home. I realised when I got home, toilet rolls were now the currency at the time. I bought a house, 53 toilet rolls. And the other kind of, there were some, like I say, there was a very tough time, but there were some perks, because obviously we were locked and loaded and ready for another cruise of guests. So we got to eat lobster and filet mignon and all the stuff that you would normally eat on your cruise. We had to make sure we depleted all those stocks, so we did a very good job of that. But then when the real sort of like reality of it hit home, it got really tough for a lot of crew, because they didn't know when the next payment was going to come from. And a lot of cruise companies, even though they'd stopped working, they weren't still delivering the service to the guests, still continued to pay crew members. Not a full salary, but they still paid them a base rate salary, so they still had some money. They still had some money to send home. They still continued to feed all the crew members, look after them, give them free internet, give them connections to their families. And my job went from being cruise director for the guests to being basically crew welfare, looking after the mentality and the sort of the mental stability of the crew, because they were going through some really tough times, and we lost some crew members who couldn't take that situation. Sorry, 1 second. And it was really tough. Like I lost some friends and stuff. And it was difficult. But what people didn't see was cruise ships really worked hard behind the scenes, because it was a logistical nightmare trying to get crew home from multiple countries, and especially when airports are closed, countries are closed, borders are closed. Even if that particular crew member's country wasn't closed, their airport was open, a lot of the time they had to transit through, and to fly, say, into Central Europe from America. Generally, you will stop somewhere else in Europe. Normally London Heathrow closed, wouldn't let the people transit through. So what a lot of crew had to do, and what a lot of the companies did for the crew, is they chartered entire aircraft, entire 747s. They paid thousands and thousands of dollars, like $200,000-$300,000 to charter these aircraft. And even when that didn't prove viable, then what they did is they decided to sail particular ships to these countries. So we basically got all of our crew from the Caribbean and those areas. We put them on one ship, and then we sailed that ship around the Caribbean. One of the things I did is I was forecast to go home, and my flights all booked, and I got a phone call from one of my good friends in HR, and he said, "Listen, will you stay on board and help keep the crew morale high as we take them back to India?" So I actually stayed on board, and we sailed from Miami, and we sailed from Miami to India, which took about a month and a half. We sailed from Miami. We had 1,500 Indian crew on board, and we sailed from there. We stopped in Southampton. We picked up more crew from another ship. Then we sailed into Europe. We stopped in Greece, picked up more crew from another ship, and we were kind of picking up crew as we went on this journey. We went through the Suez Canal. We went through the Red Sea. Then we went around what's like the Horn of Africa, where Somalia is. And even now, there's still very strict procedures when you go around Somalia. So we had to be blackout at night, so no one could see us, because we were like ninjas going through the night. So we didn't get captured by Somalian pirates. I'd seen Captain Phillips, so I was really excited. And then we went across the Indian Ocean. We docked in Mumbai. We let 1,500 crew off. We then took another 1,500 crew on board in Mumbai, who then joined us and sailed up to Goa. But then at that point, there was only about 60, 70 crew members, which are the core essential crew you need to obviously steer the ship, run the engines, that kind of thing. And I was one still left on. So it was a little bit scary going past Somalia with only 60 of us, like, we can take them. But it was interesting, and it was tough. It really was tough. The crew morale was probably at an all-time low, people not knowing what the future held for them. And my job was basically to keep them happy, entertainment. He said, can you entertain us? I was like, I don't really know anything about Indian entertainment. I've seen a few Bollywood movies, that's about it. And we had to run entertainment with restrictions. So I had to basically, most of the stuff I did was live TV shows where crew would call in, we played games on the TV. We played bingo from the stateroom. So I hosted it in the theatre. And we give all crew members a free bingo ticket. We had prizes and stuff that we give away, some really good prizes, iPads and stuff. And what I didn't realise is a lot of our crew, some of them work in the galley and the laundry, had never played bingo or even heard of it. So I explained how it all worked. We all had a ticket, and I said, if you have a claim, call this number, and if it's correct, I'll check and you win. I call the first number, under the B, number 6. The phone starts ringing. And I answer the phone. Hello? Bingo, I got a bingo. I got really good at the accent after a while. In what was such a really restricted society, to get these crew members home back to their wonderful families and stuff across the world, and they literally stopped at nothing, and they continued to pay the crew members a sort of base rate salary until they got off, and when they got home. And I think I always like to tell that story because it's interesting, because no one ever sees that side of things, and I think it's important that cruise lines do get the credit for the stuff that the media didn't sort of portray out there. All right.